Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In today's video, we are going to do my Week 8 power rankings. As usual, I will give you my top 10 teams, then I will give you my bottom 5 teams. There's a lot to talk about in this video, so let's not waste any time and let's jump right in. As usual, guys, we are going to start off with my bottom 5 teams. But before we get into that, I am going to give you 2 dishonorable mentions, 2 teams that very easily could be in the bottom 5. And that is the Las Vegas Raiders, who, by the way, just fired Josh McDaniels. They fired their GM. They are a complete mess. I suspect that next week they will absolutely be in the bottom 5, considering how things are going there. The other dishonorable mention will be the New York Giants, who've shown a little bit more life recently, but still, they were just in one of the worst games of football you will ever see against the New York Jets. Now getting into my bottom 5, and 5th from the bottom, 28 overall, we have the New England Patriots. They are 2-6 on the year. They just lost a, decent game to the Miami Dolphins. They actually kept that game pretty close for a while, hence why they might be a little bit higher on my rankings compared to some other rankings. I think they've shown some signs of life too, a little bit like the Giants. But overall, this Patriots team is bad. They just lost Kendrick Bourne for the season with a torn ACL, someone who I really like, former 49er KB. But overall, Patriots not playing well, not a good football team. Bill Belichick, I just don't know how much longer he'll be able to put up with all of this. Does he maybe retire at the end of the year? We'll have to wait and see. But next, coming in, guys, at 4th from the bottom, 29 overall, we have the Chicago Bears. They are 2-6 on the year, and they just lost pretty badly to the LA Chargers. The Bears, they have a lot of issues across their roster. Their coaching staff is a little bit iffy. Justin Fields going through some injury issues, and a really interesting move that they made was that they actually traded for Montez Sweat, and I'm not crazy about the trade for Chicago, considering it's going to be a very, very high second-round pick for a player who's going to be a free agent and maybe doesn't want to resign with a rebuilding team, but that's a whole other topic. But overall, the Bears, they had a couple of really good weeks where the offense was rolling, but I think it's catching up with them not having Justin Fields out there. And Chicago, they are a long ways away from competing seriously in the NFL. However, they could be good next year with a lot of cap space and with some major draft capital, but Chicago number 29. And at number 30 in my power rankings, 3rd from the bottom, we have the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have lost 4 in a row, and they just lost an ugly game to the Minnesota Vikings. That offense was absolutely putrid under Jordan Love. There is maybe some chatter that they might go with their backup quarterback, maybe no more Jordan Love. I think if you're the Packers, you really should just see out the year with Jordan Love and see what you have in him. But the Packers offense, dreadful. The defense actually played decently well. They have just traded away Rasul Douglas, so the defense might take a little bit of a hit in the coming weeks. But overall, Green Bay, big issues. Number 1 at the quarterback position, Matt LaFleur, under a lot of scrutiny in recent weeks, and I think rightfully so. Future in Green Bay maybe not looking so bright after all. Now coming in at number 31 overall in my power rankings, we have the Carolina Panthers, and congrats to the Panthers. They finally got a win, and they beat the Houston Texans. It was not a pretty game by any stretch of the imagination, but overall, congrats to the Panthers for getting their first win of the year. They're 1-6 on the season. I thought at the trade deadline we would have seen maybe the Panthers trade away a couple of players. That didn't really happen. The Panthers still have a ton of issues, but overall, congrats to you for getting out of the number 32 spot, Carolina. And now coming in at number 32 in the power rankings, the worst team I have in the NFL after week 8, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals, 5 losses in a row. They lost badly to the Baltimore Ravens. They just traded away Josh Dobbs, which signifies that Kyler Murray should be coming back, if not their next game, the game after. That could give a pretty big boost to their team. Overall, I'm still not super excited about their roster. They have a lot of work to do, and they also have some really good draft capital coming up in next year's draft. But overall, Cardinals way off the mark, and they are not good, so they're coming in as my worst team in the NFL after week 8. Now we are going to do my top 10 teams in the NFL after week 8. But before we get into that, let me give you an honorable mention. And this team was oh so close to making the top 10. And that is the Cincinnati Bengals. They had a huge win against the 49ers on Sunday. They're 4-3 on the year. I just can't entirely discount just how badly they started the season. But by all accounts, they're one of the hottest teams in the NFL. And I don't see any reason why that shouldn't continue moving forward. They could very easily be in the top 10 next week. And now at number 10, we have the San Francisco 49ers. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. My Niners have just kind of fallen apart in the last 3 weeks. Now, that's maybe a little bit of an overstatement, because if you look at week 6 and week 7, we lost both of those games by a combined, 7 points, so they're not awful losses. But you look at the game against the Bengals, and the Bengals just dominated on offense. And one of the big concerning things for me is when you look at the Niners offense, Brock Purdy has made mistakes. That interception in the red zone against the Bengals, that was awful. He didn't see Jermaine Pratt, but I think the bigger concern is the run game has just completely disappeared the last 2 weeks. Teams are putting those 5 down linemen, and it's just completely stopping our run game. And that's the bread and butter of the 49ers. Run the ball on offense, hit teams on play action, and you move the ball efficiently. We can't do that. Then you look at the defense. The defense can't get off the field on third down. None of the players are stepping up. I'm just almost at a loss for words at just how much this defense has fallen off. You think back to that game against the Cowboys where we dominated a very good offense, and now we just can't seemingly stop anybody. Just look at the numbers for Kirk Cousins and for Joe Burrow the last 2 weeks, and they've just dominated the 49ers. That's all you can say. They're falling down big time in the rankings. The Niners, though, we, however, have a much-needed bye week. We just traded for Chase Young, so that should help out. But overall, things have kind of gone from bad to worse for the Niners. Let's hope we can turn it around. Now let's move on to number 9, and we have the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have been an up and down team this year, and I think some of it's due to injuries. Tre'Davious White, Matt Milano. They did get a big win on Thursday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they just traded for some secondary help, getting Rasul Douglas from the Green Bay Packers. So I can see the Bills getting back to their winning ways. Now they're in a really tough division. Dolphins are really good. We're going to talk about them later. The Jets are feisty. The Jets defense is amazing. And the Patriots, although in my bottom 5, they're not the worst team in the NFL, so they could put up a fight against some teams. But the Bills, I do like for them to rebound. I think they're absolutely a playoff team. Will they be a wildcard team? That's probably my guess, considering they're in the same division as the Miami Dolphins. But I like Buffalo turning it around there. Now coming in at number 8 in my power rankings, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Now the Seahawks, 2 wins in a row, and they had a big win against the Cleveland Browns. The Browns came in to Seattle, and they put up a massive fight. Seattle were able to emerge with the win, and that's a big-time win for Seattle, not only to get the win against a good Browns team, but to now move into first place in the NFC West, taking over the 49ers in that spot. Coming up in about a few weeks or so, you have the Niners and the Seahawks play each other twice in the space of 3 weeks. So that's going to be really interesting. And to me, that's really the time that's going to determine who wins the NFC West. Should be really exciting football. But Seattle playing really good football. Defense has stepped up. Boye Mafe has been really good. And the offense is rolling. And they just added Leonard Williams in a trade with the New York Giants. Now coming up next, and at number 7 in my power rankings, we have the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys just destroyed the LA Rams. That game was basically over before halftime. It was like 28-7 or something like that. They are rolling. Ever since they got beaten badly by the 49ers, they've been able to collect themselves, rebound, and get a couple of wins. And that's what they needed to do. Now, they're in a similar situation to Buffalo, where they're in a division with a really amazing top team in the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Cowboys may be destined for a wild card team, but I think they've turned it around really, really well. Cowboys moving forward are going to be a tough matchup for anyone, including the 49ers, as we move forward in the season. And now coming in at number 6, we have yet another NFC team, and that's the Detroit Lions. 6-2 on the year. They just got a really, really solid win over the Las Vegas Raiders, and that basically ended the career of Josh McDaniels in Las Vegas. But overall, I like the Detroit Lions. They just traded for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Their offense should be rolling. Jameson Williams back. I think the defense, can it hold up throughout the course of a 17-game season and into the playoffs? That remains to be seen. But overall, I like the Lions a lot. They're a really well-coached team. If they can stay healthy and not suffer any more big-time injuries, especially to their defense, I don't see why they could be Super Bowl contenders. I think their offense is rolling. Now we are into the top 5 teams after week 8 in the NFL. And coming in at number 5 and falling a number of spots this week are the Kansas City Chiefs. 6-2 on the year. They just lost pretty badly to a not good Denver Broncos. 2 weeks ago, they played the Broncos and barely beat them. The Chiefs just haven't seemed like their normal selves this season. I think the offense is still really just trying to figure out the weapons at wide receiver. They still have the good running backs with Pacheco and McKinnon. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce, but it just seems like the offense with the receivers, they're just not really on the same page. The defense is playing well. George Karlaftis is having a really nice season to go along with Chris Jones and Trent McDuffie. I think the Chiefs are still a very, very good team, and I could see them, if they bounce back, in the next week or two, climbing up into that top 3 spot. But right now, I have them at number 5. They haven't been playing amazing football, but they still are, no question, a really, really good team. So they're at number 5 after week 8. And now at number 4 in my power rankings, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They might be the hottest team in the NFL. They've won 5 games in a row, going from 1-2 to 6-2 now. They have their bye week, and after the bye week, they're taking on the 49ers, but it's in Jacksonville. Overall, the Jaguars just been really solid. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Offense is looking good. Trevor Lawrence is looking good. They also made a trade for Ezra Cleveland, the offensive lineman from Minnesota, to shore up the offensive line. The defense, Josh Allen is playing really good for that Jaguars defense. They're making enough plays defensively to win those games, to go along with that really good offense. They're coached well. Doug Peterson doing a really good job in Jacksonville. Jacksonville well-deserved here into the top 5 at number 4 in the rankings. And now at number 3, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson is playing really good football. I know Odell Beckham's been frustrated and maybe not getting enough catches or enough targets, things of that nature. But overall, this team is playing lights out. They have the best defense in the NFL, in my opinion, and the offense is making more than enough plays. You're seeing guys like Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews really step up. I think there will be games where Odell Beckham is going to have some big-time games as he gets more acclimated into this offense. Love how Lamar Jackson's playing. The offensive line is doing a lot better. The run game has been solid. Gus Edwards has been scoring touchdowns. Baltimore are a really, really good team, and I definitely would not want to go into Baltimore late in the season when you have the big matchup. They're a tough team, especially when you have to go up against that defense. Never an easy week of football when you take on the Baltimore Ravens. And now at number 2, in my power rankings, we have the Miami Dolphins. They took care of business against the New England Patriots. That game was pretty close for a while, but at the end of the day, the Dolphins are just far too talented. Jalen Ramsey back into the fold, and he has a big interception in that game. I think the Dolphins are just rolling. I think the defense will keep getting better under Vic Fangio as they just get more and more used to that defense. We know what the offense can do there. Achane should be back shortly. No reason why the Dolphins shouldn't win the AFC East, although it's a tough division. That team is just loaded. If I were the Dolphins, though, my one slight critique would have been potentially making a move at the trade deadline. I'm not 100% certain on their cap situation and their draft capital, but they are absolutely in a Super Bowl window, especially when, the AFC, there's a lot of good teams there, but there's no dominant team necessarily in the AFC. It's wide open, I would say, for the Miami Dolphins. So I would have liked to have seen them make a trade. They didn't, but I still think they're a fantastic team. And now at number 1 in my rankings, and this is no surprise to anyone, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. They were able to pull out the win against the Washington Commanders in Washington. Washington were leading for a lot of that game, but just the talent came through. That touchdown reception by A.J. Brown was one of the best catches you will see. He is phenomenal. The team is phenomenal. They added Kevin Byard, who's going to get more acclimated into that defense. I just think the Eagles are just so good. They are the best team in the NFL, and that clearly means they are easily the best team in the NFC. They're the class of the NFC. You have the Lions, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Seahawks looking up at the Eagles right now. I'm not afraid to admit that. Hopefully things will change and get a bit more competitive in the NFC, but the Eagles are just looking great, and it's no surprise they are number 1 in the power rankings with a 7-1 record, the best record in the NFL. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are my power rankings after Week 8 in the NFL. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, feel free to put in your own rankings in the comments. And if you enjoy the content, drop a like on the video. It really helps out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Feel free to share the video all over social media. I'm absolutely okay with that. And I'm going to leave it right there, guys. But before I go, you know I'm always going to say 2 things. The butt counts, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.